We've all heard horror stories about people getting struck by lightning, and although when something like this happens, there can be some serious consequences, there are some special cases with some really surprising outcomes. Tony Cicoria was a 40-something-year-old orthopedic surgeon who was at a family picnic one day in 1994. He stepped away from the gathering to call his mother on a payphone when a flash of lightning suddenly burst out of the phone and struck Tony in the face. After overcoming initial memory problems for a few weeks, Tony had this sudden, strong desire to listen to piano music. Given that Tony's only prior experience with piano was a few lessons here or there in elementary school, and that he only listened to rock music, this was a little out of his character. But he didn't ignore this feeling. He soon fell in love with pieces like the Winter Wind Etude and the B-flat minor scherzo. And coincidentally, one of his family's babysitters just had asked if she could store her piano at his house, just in time to teach himself how to play. And eventually, Tony started to hear the piano music in his head. He would have dreams of himself playing original compositions on stage, and jump out of bed in the middle of the night to write down what he had dreamt of, even though he had no idea how to write music. Although instances like this would be commonly called musical hallucinations, Tony saw them more as musical inspirations. He grew to think of the lightning strike as a special gift, and a mission for him to tune into the music that had been deep inside him all along. In the book Musicophilia, Tales of Music in the Brain by Oliver Sacks, Tony describes this passion. I would get up at 4 in the morning and play till I went to work, and when I got home from work, I was at the piano all evening. My wife was really not pleased. Fast forward to 2004. His found musical inspiration had never deserted him. He was now divorced and had gone through a severe motorcycle accident that left him unconscious in a ditch. But despite all this, he was still able to make a complete recovery and continue on his journey. None of these intense obstacles ever kept him from continuing to pursue his passion for music. But why did this happen? It's very possible that the lightning struck Tony's right temporal lobe. Unlike the left temporal lobe, which is involved in understanding language and remembering verbal information, the right temporal lobe is involved in remembering non-verbal information, such as spatial relationships between objects and, you guessed it, music. There's also been other cases that have linked sudden found passions for music in the right temporal lobe. Oliver Sacks also studied a research chemist in 2003 who had to have a tumor removed from her right temporal lobe. Before the surgery, people said that she was very reserved, uninterested in others around her, and obsessive over incomplete tasks. But after the surgery, she was said to have become much warmer and more genuinely interested in the lives of her coworkers. She also now longed to listen to classical music and go to concerts, which is something she had never really had interest in. Music that had no special meaning to her before could now move her to tears. Another case that links the sudden love for music to the right temporal lobe is a 2006 study of an elderly woman who was suffering from seizures in her right temporal lobe. Her attitude towards music changed when she was put on medicine to control the seizures. Before taking the medicine, she was described as indifferent to music, and if anything, she just actively disliked certain musical timbres, like the piano. But after she was put on the medicine, her outlook on music abruptly changed. She now listened to classical music radio stations for hours at a time and loved attending concerts. She would even get mad at audience members for talking during someone's performance. There have also been several cases of people with frontotemporal dementia who develop a sudden passion for music as their abilities to use and understand language diminish. And none of these instances even include those who weren't struck by lightning or didn't have any psychological conditions that still developed a sudden passion for music in their older years. Tony Cicoria's story is a remarkable example of how our brains process music, and how turning to music or other art forms after experiencing a traumatic event have given people the feeling of being reborn. If you want to check out Tony's work, he has an album out called Notes from an Accidental Pianist and Composer. It's definitely worth a listen.